Okay, well, I was attending Canadian Bible College in Regina, and I was fully planning on becoming a youth pastor, because it seemed that at the time everyone else was going to go work overseas, and so I thought, well, someone needed to stay in North America. It was during a chapel service that one of those few times I've heard like an audible voice from God telling me to apply for this overseas program. I really didn't expect to get accepted because one of the qualifications was marks, and my marks weren't all that good, but I thought if I went and applied and I got rejected, at least I'd been obedient and I wouldn't have to worry about this missionary thing anymore. I was accepted, and I spent a year in the Philippines, and it was during that time that I really realized that I could do what I was passionate about and do what I felt God was calling me to do in an overseas setting. And so then I came home and married an MK and became a missionary. I work with students, so I like to think of myself as a youth pastor with a more exotic address. So I work with high school students and university students, mentoring, discipling, evangelism, leadership development with that age group. I also teach English as a second language at a university in Phnom Penh as a way as a way to make contacts and be able to invite students to church, but also as a way to help develop future Cambodian leaders in a skill that's necessary for them to have. When you're doing a short-term experience, you really need to remember that there's 4 groups involved. The first group is the short-term team itself. And the team needs to remember that they're getting an opportunity that not a lot of other people get. And so they need to take advantage of that opportunity of experiencing the culture, of they'll see and feel things that they don't know what to do with, that they'll see things that they think are wrong, and they really need to allow themselves to process those things and work through those things. The other group involved is the group who sent you. Parents who give permission for you to go, people who give money so that you can go. And what they want to see and hear about, they want to see pictures, they want to hear stories, they want to hear about the people that have been impacted by the trip. The third group is the nationals in the country that you're going to. And for a lot of them, having a short-term team come is like the highlight of their year. And so I encourage people to get to know, even in the short time that they're there, to develop relationships and get to know people. And through Skype and Facebook and all these things, it's possible to keep in contact. And the fourth group is the international workers who are receiving you. And short-term teams need to realize just the fact that they got off the plane and came to visit is a huge encouragement. And so coming and being a part of what we do is a huge encouragement to us. And so when all those 4 groups, when their needs are met, then that makes for a good short-term experience. Well, one of the things that I enjoy is working with the students. And so to be able to, whether it's teaching English or teaching the Bible, to see the lights come on and to see that they're understanding what is being taught and then putting that into practice. That's really what gives me joy and gives me passion. And you know, we see God at work when these groups come, and we do a lot of short term. So when these groups come from North America and they connect with believers and non-believers in Cambodia, and you see that connection, and it's more than just a hello, how are you, but people are hugging and they're crying and they're exchanging emails and they're developing these relationships which are going to go on for a very long time. That connection within the family of God, and with some people who are not quite yet in the family of God, those are neat experiences and really give us a lot of joy. And we see God is the one who's brought them together. So I've been discouraged when students disappoint me, when someone does something that we didn't expect them to do, or contrary to what they said they were going to do, when you plan something and then it doesn't go off quite the way that you planned it to go. We were quite discouraged in our first term when we got evacuated after a civil war broke out in the country, and that can be somewhat of a discouraging time. But yeah, I think there's highs and there's lows. But a lot of times in a cross-cultural setting, the highs and the lows get exaggerated a little bit. But what I've learned to do, and what we've learned to do, is just try not to get too low during the discouraging times, and remember the highs, remember the good times, and those kind of wells of encouragement to get you through the discouraging times. Well, I think one of the things that people don't realize in our churches is just the effect that they can have personally, the life-changing effects that they can have by not only by giving and by praying, and those are two huge parts, but by going. And I think if people realized how big of a difference going and being part of a short-term team can make, I think a lot more people would be doing it. And realizing it's not a holiday, it's not something that people that you go to do to just have a cool experience, and it is that. But the fact that this is one of the ways that God is working to help fulfill the Great Commission, and is by using short-term teams. And just the effect it has on the people on the ground in the country that you're going to is when people come once, no one goes on a short-term trip once, because once you've been one time, you realize the impact it has, and you want to keep going and being a part of that again and again. Yeah, what we are doing, the work that we're doing in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, is highly dependent on short-term teams, because we run an English camp every summer, and in order to run an English camp, we need native English speakers. And native English speakers are what draws the crowd. And so we are able to take a number of native English speakers and put them in a group with Cambodian students who want to learn English, and they are able to teach them, but also to build relationships during that week of the camp. If we didn't have the short-term teachers coming, we couldn't do the camp, and we wouldn't be able to draw the crowd. After the camp, those students are invited to our ongoing English classes, which we operate in different facilities throughout the city. And through those ongoing classes, they're then invited to go to church. And that is really the way that the evangelism works within the student community. Not so much going out and giving your testimony and having someone pray and invite them to church, but through the process of studying with Christians and then wanting to come and to maybe become friendly with the Christians, and then are invited to church. But none of that is even possible if we don't have teams who are coming to be able to help us do that. We are, as full-time missionaries, or international workers, with the Christian and Missionary Alliance, we receive a living allowance through the Global Advance Fund. And that is the money that is given through local CNMA churches. And without that money, we would not be able to live and do what we do. And once, what we have found is that once people come and again see and are part of something through a short-term trip, they develop an ownership. And now they're not giving to they're not just giving to a fund, but they're giving to people who they know to work with other people who they know. They're giving money to their friends to help work with their other friends in that country. And so now missions has a face, missions has a name, and it's something that they are very eager then and want to be a part of. Pray for the people of Cambodia as they recover from the atrocities that they've been through. And there isn't one person in Cambodia who isn't suffering from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder, and all that comes along with that. And there's just a lot of inner healing that needs to happen, and people in the church and outside of the church, and so they could pray for that and for that healing. But you know, the best way to be able to learn about somebody and to pray for them is to go over there and see them. So I would encourage anybody who can to jump on a plane and come over and pray for them face to face.